I'm back, everybody. It is Tuesday, January 19th. Back at the podcast. I'm Zach. This is Sully. And
How's it going, guys?
today we'll be talking a bunch of a little different from last time. We spoke primarily about the football games over the weekend. So this week we'll be going a little more in depth, a little bit about pop culture and a couple other things with sports. To start us off first, we're going to talk about the weird surge in celebrity deaths over the last week. I wanted to do something not too long ago about David Bowie because I mean I loved his music and all the other kind of stuff he put out, and but it's been hard to kind of focus on that. I mean, just yesterday we had another musician die, Glenn Frey, the guitarist and vocalist of the Eagles, dead at 67 from rheumatoid arthritis and complications from pneumonia. You want to say anything about that, Sully? Glenn Frey, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the weirdest things about this is that the people who are dying, the celebrities that are dying, they're kind of inspirational. They're kind of like role models in a sense. Alan Rickman, who played Severus Snape in the Harry Potter series, and it was also in Die Hard. He didn't start acting until he was 28. Didn't get his biggest role, which was the role he had as the villain in Die Hard, until I think he was in his 40s. Or 40s or 50s. So he was up there in age.
You know, it's funny. I completely forgot he was in Die Hard until my brother made me sit down and watch Die Hard on Christmas Eve with everyone in my family. So that's a new tradition in the DeCostas now, I guess. Watch Die Hard on Christmas.
That's always my answer to what's your favorite Christmas movie, because people forget it's a Christmas movie.
but yeah, it's crazy. Dan Haggerty, known as Grizzly Adams, he died of spinal cancer just a couple days ago too. So he was the fourth one in a week. The big celebrities from like even the 70s and from on. I really only know Grizzly Adams from that stupid quote from the Happy Gilmore movie, where he is like, "Yeah, right. Grizzly Adams had a beard."
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with him at all. But
yeah, that's the only thing I know him from. So
it is just weird how I don't know. I feel like we haven't really seen something like this, other than who died on the same day as Michael Jackson? It was an actor.
It was Farrah Fawcett who died. There was a couple other ones. Billy Mays died within that week too. The guy.
You're right.
Walter Cronkite, him too. There was a lot of them. That's why they called '09 the summer of death.
It was it's just real weird. First David Bowie, and we can get into this, but. David Bowie just put out a new album, Black Star, right? I think that's the name of it.
Black Star, yep.
And there was a preview of it before it came out in Rolling Stone. Big three-piece article right in the front. And it just talked a lot about the musical inspiration behind it. And what I thought was pretty cool was that the people producing the album, David Bowie kind of signs up to work with these people, says to gets told by a friend to check out this group. They're playing in a jazz show in a bar. He goes in, and they're playing, and they're like, "Is that David Bowie? Is that David Bowie?" And pretty soon, everyone knows what's going on. They link up. They get together. They start working on this album. They're listening to a lot of Kendrick Lamar, which is kind of funny, especially if you're like an old school music fan, to think that David Bowie would be listening to Kendrick Lamar.
David Bowie is always been the most hip dude. He's always ahead of his time. So that right there doesn't even surprise me one bit. Like.
He said he loved how To Pimp a Butterfly was not just a hip-hop album. It easily could have been. Kendrick blew people out of the water with Good Kid, Mad City. It was hip-hop based. He could have stuck with that. He would have sold millions of copies, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to do something with a little more it's funky. To Pimp a Butterfly is funky, and it steps outside that typical culture of hip-hop. And David Bowie wanted to do something similar. He wanted to get kind of funky, put some jazz into it, but the reason I talk about this article is because somewhere in the on the second page of it, it addresses a rumor that David Bowie is very sick, and that's why he hasn't done any live performances in a while, and that's also why he hasn't put out an album. I think it was 10 years since he had put out the one before that.
The one before was like a 10-year hiatus, yeah.
Yep.
Something with a record company, I think it was what was going on.
They asked one of his friends, is he sick? And he says he's not sick. He's just been focusing real hard on putting out this album, making sure it's perfect. Well, turns out they were covering for him. Obviously, he was terminally ill, and we found that out not more than a couple weeks later.
Now, there's a lot of interesting thing I wanted to point out with the new album too, because like there's a lot of weird like stories and like even conspiracies going on right now behind the whole Bowie situation. Now, one thing I wanted to point out was, I don't know if you've seen the music video for Black Star, the self-titled song of the album. So like the video starts off with a dead astronaut laying on a obscure planet, which is the strangest thing, because if any big Bowie fan knows any of his famous songs, you know the song Space Oddity talks about Major Tom, the guy who breaks off from communication between the from ground control, you know. So they had this astronaut in a skeleton body on the album on the planet. So people were like, "Oh, well, what is this? Like, why is he hinting at something? Is he talking about how is his death, or is he dying?" Like, it was kind of a weird thing. And this video came out almost about a couple of weeks before he passed. And the other thing also that Black Star symbolizes, because they talked about how David Bowie was known as the Star Child, you know, Star Child, and how he, like, that was his nickname and stuff.
Yep.
A Black Star, like his star is burning out, like he's dying and stuff like that. So it was really kind of like amazing and somewhat beautiful that he puts out this like piece of art, but very haunting at the same time, considering the circumstances he was dealing with.
Yeah, he has some sort of fascination with outer space and with stars and with like stuff that's beyond, you know, with that, his song called Starman, which is one of his big hits. You said Space Oddity with, you know, this is Major Tom, the ground control, and the Black Star music video. And it's all, I know it's all coming together, and it is a very weird way to leave and to end your legacy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And so that's, could go on a lot more about Bowie, but just like if you get a chance to listen to his new album, it's some very obscure stuff, but some beautiful stuff. It's getting a lot of rave reviews. And a quick word on Glenn Frey. So I'm looking at all the songs he like wrote or co-wrote or sang on. You got Tequila Sunrise, Desperado, Lion Eyes, Hotel California, Life in the Fast Lane. So it's very sad seeing a lot of these guys who've influenced a lot of musicians like over the years kind of just starting to pass on now, and a lot of them even dying in their 60s, you know. And in this day and age, that's relatively, now seems like it's young to die in 60s. So yeah.
One thing we see is that people kind of talk about, you know, what's the test of good music, and it's the period of time that it plays after someone's, you know, moved on. And I'm sure those two guys, between the Eagles and everything David Bowie's done, we're going to be hearing his stuff, you know, 100 years from now, 150 years from now. It's that good, and it's that meaningful.
Yep. So, all right. So enough of that. We'll move on to next topic. All right. So second one, we're talking the Oscars. So the Oscars just came out with their nominations about maybe a week and a half ago or so. So a lot of big films nominated, stuff ranging from The Revenant to The Big Short. I got Creed had a couple nominations and stuff, but regardless. What's that? Brooklyn, yep. Spotlight as well. I heard that was great. But the big story coming out, I don't know if people have heard, but Spike Lee and Will Smith's wife, Anna Pinkett Smith. What's her name again?
Jada Pinkett.
Jada. Sorry, I messed that up. But yeah, they're both boycotting the Oscars for the lack of diversity between nominated African American actors and actresses. So yeah, Sully, what do you want to give us your opinion on that? I know you were talking about an interview between, speaking of Snubs, with like Michael B. Jordan being in Creed and stuff. I know you were talking about Bill Simmons in that interview. So you want to talk a little bit more about that, or your opinion on the matter?
Yeah, well, I'm a big Bill Simmons guy. I listen to his podcast all the time, and he had on Michael B. Jordan, who, those of you who don't know or haven't seen Creed, Michael B. Jordan is also in The Wire. He plays Wallace. He's a very young kid in that movie. He's also in, I don't know, he's in a couple of, he's in the new Fantastic Four that came out that actually was a huge flop.
Yeah, I heard that movie. That movie bombed. That was really bad. I didn't, but I knew it was awful.
Bill Simmons actually asked him about that, and he was like, everyone has to have one flop. There's mine. I can't mess up again. But he said, you know, he kind of talked about the ability to bounce back from that type of thing. He's also in Friday Night Lights. He's Vince, the quarterback of East Dillon, the team that Coach Taylor ends up coaching after the Dillon Panthers. But anyways, fantastic actor, even from a really young age, which he was pretty young when he was in The Wire. I also love that show. I'm obsessed with it. But he was talking to Bill Simmons, and you know, people are talking about you know, how he was snubbed. A lot of people thought it was Oscar worthy. And there's no.
This is for Creed, right?
This is for Creed. Yep. And there's no African Americans. No one who's black nominated for Best Actor, Best Actress. And Bill Simmons asks him, and he kind of goes, "Well, what's your goal as an actor?" And he's like, "Well, I've done the superhero movie. People are obsessed with that right now, and I've done this and that." But he was like, people can relate to Creed. He was like, people who grew up, black kids who grew up in the city can kind of relate to it. There's stories to be told. It's not like stories of Irish immigrants in the 1960s are the only stories out there, which that's the storyline of Brooklyn. It's not like journalists uncovering a church sex scandal, which I think Spotlight's a fantastic movie. I think it deserves to win Picture of the Year. But those aren't the only storylines out there. There's a lot of stories with people, immigrants or black youth or Spanish youth. You look at a movie like Goal, the soccer movie. That had tremendous success because it was a very good look on, it was glorified, it was Hollywoodized, but it was a good look on a kid who was in America as an illegal immigrant. His family was all legal immigrants, and it was just kind of an inside look on life.
I just think it's tough to not have him nominated for that role because Creed was such an acclaimed movie, and the fact that Sylvester Stallone got the nomination for his Best Supporting Actor, and I didn't see Creed, so I don't know what his performance was, and I heard from many people that he did very well in the movie. Michael B. Jordan did very well in the movie, and I think it's tough not to have him nominated for a role where the movie is so acclaimed, because most movies that are nominated, like, oh, wow, this is a fantastic movie, it's definitely going to be down to the nominations. I mean, wouldn't the Best Actor be nominated for an acclaimed movie like that? And there are a decent amount of good pictures this year, but, I mean, you couldn't just have added one more nomination. I mean, I thought Creed overall, like, the reviews I read for it online and from other critics were it was a well-done and fantastic movie.
Yeah, we were talking about it before. There's 3 black winners of Best Actor in the past 16 years, and that's Forrest Whitaker and The King of Scotland, you said?
Last King of Scotland, yeah.
Last King of Scotland. That's Jamie Foxx and Ray. And we were talking, Jamie Foxx really got snubbed from his role in Django. He easily could have been nominated.
Yeah, he wasn't even nominated that year, which was ludicrous to me because I thought Django was an awesome movie, and he was amazing in that role. So yeah, he got snubbed that year too.
And a lot of people gave Quentin Tarantino flack. I know Spike Lee called him out. He said he has an obsession with the N-word. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a pro on that time era, but that's seems to be the way people would address their slaves and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think it's all about staying true to the era. But he absolutely got snubbed. And three black recipients of Best Actor in the past 16 years is now. This is the question we propose. Is it a problem with the Oscar panel, the people who decide and vote, or is it a problem with the roles for Hollywood? Are people not winning because their roles that are written into scripts aren't good enough to win? And that's kind of the situation we see in, because it gets to a point where, yeah, the voters and the panel might be wrong, but no one is nominated. And you look at the pictures that are nominated for Best Picture this year: Brooklyn, the one with Tom Hanks, Bridge of Spies.
Yeah.
Spotlight, they're all very white movies. The Revenant, all these movies have very, very suburban and white characters and storylines, I guess. So is that the problem? Is that there's not enough stories being told from the minority standpoint?
I think that it's a little bit of both, and I think a majority of it definitely comes to the Academy. And the thing is, I forgot to mention before, the Academy president just put out a newsletter last night addressing the problem and saying how they are very ashamed and frustrated about the decision that was made among the members of the society or whatever that pick the nominees every year, and they are looking to address the problem and fix it. But yeah, it could definitely be a little bit of both. Majority, I still feel like Michael B. Jordan should have been nominated for that role, just considering the acclaim that movie got. So I do feel like it was a snub. But I mean, it's one of those things where, like, most people say there's snubs every single year, but I mean, when you only have like 3 African American actors who've won in 16 years, you often got to think. And there's definitely more roles that many of these African Americans have done an extremely well job in movies over the years. So, but I never really get too discouraged about the Oscars because they've made so many mistakes in the past, and they've given awards to many films that were very undeserving. Like I thought Crash in '04 wasn't that great of a movie to win the Best Picture. I mean, the Best Actor for 2011 was the actor for The Artist, which was a silent film, and I thought that was a snore. So, I mean, it's a big issue, but like I said, the Oscars. This is not one of the first times they've screwed up. They've made many mistakes in the past. So
yeah, we've talked about it before. It's a bunch of old white guys and that problem is kind of
that needs to be addressed. Like there needs to be a little bit more diversity in it. Bring a younger crowd in instead of like an older generation of voters. Bring in new blood and time to move on to the next generation of people.
One thing, the Emmys this year, the actress who won best lead role. Is the woman from How to Get Away with Murder. I forget her name. She's actually from Central Falls, Rhode Island, so that's kind of cool. She's kind of local. But she was the first Black woman to win that award, period, ever. It took till 2016, which is a little bit surprising. But I think that kind of lies in the role and in the problem where people just aren't writing good enough roles for people to win these awards. You know, it might not be the voters that are being biased, but the roles that people are getting aren't good enough to win them the awards, and I think that's a huge problem. Then you go ahead and you see someone like Jamie Foxx in Django, and you're like, he was fantastic. How is he not even nominated? Okay, not winning. All right, maybe that's understandable, but not even nominated. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That was absurd, absolutely ridiculous. So hopefully they get on that real quick and they can fix that problem up and give more variety of actors at least the spotlight they deserve for the roles that they're portraying. So, and
speaking of spotlight, on a lighter note, that was my favorite movie of this year, and I hope it wins best film because I thought it was fantastic.
I'm not sure who I want to win. I don't know. I'm pulling for Leo because he's never won one, but I won't be really too picky about wins Best Picture because I thought there was a lot of good movies this year. So. But yep, so we're gonna wrap that up on the Oscars right now. So moving on to the next topic, we're gonna go back to the sports world real quick. Let me talk some hoops for a bit. We're gonna start with the NBA for a little bit. Last night was a big game of the year. Cavs and Warriors met for the first time since Christmas. I know that game was played in Golden State back a couple weeks ago, or almost a month now. What an absolute bombshell the Cavaliers had laid last night. That was disgraceful. They were terrible.
I cannot be happier that the Celtics could not get Kevin Love. I couldn't be happier.
He just doesn't even look. He doesn't even fight out there.
No, he is so soft. That play with Kelly Olynyk that ended up separating his shoulder or whatever the injury, tearing his labrum or whatever the heck happened. I think that was a routine play. That, I mean, I guess an injury is an injury. You can't really you can't really say anything. But then he goes ahead and complains and calls Kelly Olynyk out. And it's like, come on, you are soft. You are so soft.
So last night, Kevin Love had 3 points for the Cavaliers, and they lost. I think 132. I think it was 132 to 98. I think they lost. They completely got run out of the building. At one point, the Warriors were up by 40. Steph Curry had 21 points in the first half. He finished with 35. 132 to 98. The Warriors move on to 38-4. That is absolutely ridiculous.
That's college basketball record.
And the most insane part is that they're chasing for that Bulls record in '96 for the 72-10. So they can only lose 6 more games after this, which is astonishing because this team is so good. But to think about it, presumably the greatest team of all time only lost 6 more games after this. So don't know if they're going to do it, but I just want to give a shout out to all the Cavs people, especially you, Connor Thegg, and Jackson. I need to talk about this with you right now because all I heard from the offseason was how the Cavs needed Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love back, and they were going to be right back on track. The Warriors are going to be completely irrelevant once the Cavs and them got back onto the court with those 2 guys on there, and it did absolutely nothing for them last night. Didn't even matter where the game was played. They lost in Golden State, and they got absolutely blown out of the water last night in Cleveland. So I don't even think the East can even compete with the West this year because the Spurs look unbeatable at home. The Warriors look unbeatable pretty much anywhere. What you got? Anything else to add to that, Sully? I just think that was absolutely embarrassing by the Cavs last night.
I will say that I don't think that series would have been the same with Kevin Love. Kyrie Irving, yeah, I think Kyrie's a heck of a player, and even though
he's a great shooter, so I'll give Kyrie Irving that. But
he only came up with 8 points last night. I know, but I think Kevin Love is so overrated. I think he was dynamic on a Minnesota Timberwolves team that was crappy, and I think people tend to mistake point totals and stats with like having a desire to win and a mentality to win. And I think Kevin Love is just not that type of player. You kind of see it in other sports as well, guys who can tear it up when they're on a crappy team. And then they come to look at a guy like Carl Crawford. I know the Rays, excuse me, got good towards the end of Crawford's tenure there in Tampa Bay. But he comes to the Sox and he can't handle the pressure. He's not a winner. He's not a baller. He can't play.
That's a great example.
And a fantastic guy. Has all the tools, a 6-tool player. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. Defensively, there's no one else you would rather have out there in either right or left field. The guy's got a good arm. He can hit for average. He can hit for power. He's got the speed to be able to beat out, routine plays and every once in a while stretch it into a single. But the guy comes to Boston, he can't handle it. And then he goes to L.A. where, here we go, going to talk about how bad L.A. sucks as a sports market again. The fans don't really care, so it's a perfect place for him because he can do whatever he wants. And if he sucks, then
he's not being watched like Kevin Love is. There's so much pressure to win in a place like Cleveland because the people are so devoted to their teams out there, even though they suck and even though the Browns are an embarrassment and stuff, that people still love their teams. And it's unbelievable. Like I tell the story every single time I talk about Cleveland. I was in Buffalo Wild Wings on Columbus on High Street, and we were sitting there watching the NFL games, and the Cleveland Brown fans start going nuts in the bar. Like they're going ballistic, like screaming like they had just won the Super Bowl. So I go over and ask the guy, I'm like, what happened? Did I miss something big? And they're like, oh, we just kicked a field goal. Yeah. And like they're going crazy. And I'm just like, all this for a field goal. So you see how devoted these fans are. Like they're crazy. But that's the kind of environment Kevin Love's playing in. And when you have a guy who is not performing and there's a lot of pressure on you to win, especially when you have a guy like LeBron James back, it brings a lot of pressure onto your team, and it puts a lot of pressure on the other players to get it done because you want to be able to win for him. But right now, it does not look like he's playing very well in those circumstances, and it's really hurting the team in big games. The Cavs will still probably finish in the top 3 in the East. I'm not
because the East is terrible. It's awful.
The East is awful, though. So what does that matter? You have to be performing against the teams against the West because the West is so much superior to the East right now with the teams I just discussed. I mean, Oklahoma City, another one of those teams that probably run through the East as well. So in Houston would probably fare well as too. So
I don't know. I'm glad you brought up Houston because I actually want to touch upon this.
Okay.
The Kardashians are the death of sports and mankind, probably. But
yeah,
James Harden has been terrible since he started dating.
Don't get involved with them. Stay away from them. You're a superstar. Stay away from that family.
They're the biggest cancer in the world. He sucks now. He's terrible. That and when he signed his deal with Adidas, I don't know if the two are correlated, but the dude just can't play ball anymore. And then Dwight Howard is a huge baby.
You know who's in Adidas school?
Who? Michigan?
Yep.
Their basketball shorts and uniforms, for that matter, are like the ugliest things I've ever seen.
I've heard that so many times.
They have the worst. Like it's so bad that I think it was Cammie, sports writer from the Sporting News, tweeted out a picture and said, "Thank God, next year is Michigan's last year with Adidas."
Speaking of Michigan, we'll go right into college hoops, I guess. They played. What's up?
Did you see the fight between Michigan and Ohio State yesterday in college hockey?
I did not know.
Oh man, you gotta look that up if you're watching right now.
Yeah. That Michigan guy sucker punched the other guy the other night. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a ref in between.
I guess they played back-to-back games because we had the podcast. We were talking and I talked about how Ohio State beat Michigan at home over the weekend, and I guess the following game they went up to Ann Arbor and played, and I guess that's where that fight happened. But yeah, I did see the video of that.
So go check that out. It's pretty good. The ref in between the two players, guy from Michigan, guy from Ohio State. And the guy from Michigan, I don't know their names, unfortunately, but just rears up, sucker punches the guy from Ohio State who's laying back on the ice over the ref's shoulder. Just comes down, pops him. It's pretty good entertainment. And John Buccigross was loving it on SportsCenter last night.
Yeah, he's a big hockey guy. I know that. So going to college hoops. To all the Duke haters out there, what a day of celebration today is. Duke has lost 3 in a –
Woo!
Duke has lost 3 in a row with his first 3-game losing streak since 2007. They lost to Syracuse 64-62. Yeah, seeing Coach K look like he was going to have an aneurysm on the court side the other night, it looked like it was absolutely fun to watch. Another game that happened, Purdue, Rutgers. I don't know if you saw that game. No, Rutgers, absolute embarrassment to be in the Big Ten. I am ashamed. I wish we never made that deal with them. Maryland's fine because Maryland's good at basketball. Rutgers isn't good at anything. Their complete program's falling apart. They just fired the AD. The school is just a bunch of kids just getting in trouble, breaking into places. It's just an absolute disaster. They lost 107-57 yesterday to Purdue. They lost by 50. Absolutely embarrassing game. But the one game I wanted to talk about that was pretty good last night was the Iowa State-Oklahoma game. So I guess it's a curse this year to be the number 1 team. At the first time since 1941, number 1 has gone down to the back-to-back games. So I guess Kansas was number 1 last week. They lost to West Virginia. And then now Oklahoma got the top spot for 1 game, which was last night, and they lost to Iowa State. And that's Iowa's first win against the number 1 team in 59 years. So did you catch any of that game last night?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it. Who's their big guard that's been tearing it up for them?
I don't know his name, but I know he had the interview afterwards, and he had a big
look it up right now
last night. But I'm not. The thing is, I'm more familiar with teams that are pretty good in college basketball. I'm not too familiar with the names, but I don't know. I guess I gotta get on that with names and stuff. But yeah, Iowa State looked pretty good. But I wanted to bring that up because I just discussed about the Kansas-West Virginia game last week and how amazing the Big 12 basketball has been this year. You got Oklahoma 15-2 was number 1. Kansas was number 1 last week. They're 15-2. West Virginia beat Kansas. They're 15-2. Baylor's 14-3. And now you just had Iowa State who beat Oklahoma, who was number 1 yesterday. So that might be the best conference in the country right now.
It's Buddy Hield, I think his name is. He's a senior. He exploded last year. He was a fantastic player, but he's really just kind of perfected his game even more. He's really well-rounded. He's probably on pace to be the best player and be a first-team All-American this year. And he's been averaging, I think, 26 points a game, which is unreal, absolutely unreal. And he's doing it, a lot of it from the free throw line. He's just lights out from the charity stripe, and that's an element of his game he didn't really have last season. So, I mean, the Big 12 is just a force to be reckoned with, and
they're really good.
I'm interested come tournament time. I mean, we talk about the ACC all the time because they've obviously proven themselves as a powerhouse. But I don't think we could have an all. Our Sweet 16 might have half a dozen Big 12 teams in it. I don't know, the way things are shaping out. It's looking like they're going to be the teams to go through this year.
It's the best time of the year, March Madness. I was there at the Final Four last year. Me, a couple of my friends, Jackson, Brian, and Jorge, we went down to Indianapolis last year. We didn't get into any of the games, of course. Don't have the funds to get into those. But we went to the Tilted Kilt, which is where the Wisconsin watch party was, and we saw Wisconsin beat Kentucky, and it was something I'll remember the rest of my life. How crazy the Wisconsin fan were going. I mean, it was unreal. It was an awesome weekend hanging out over there, and then of course Wisconsin devastating loss to Duke in the championship two nights later. But
this year, one of the first round, one location is Brooklyn, New York, which I'm only 2 hours away from, two and a half hours. So I'll be making a trip down there, hopefully. And the other location, Providence, Rhode Island, which I'm also about two and a half hours away from. So I'm happy and lucky enough to be right in the middle.
I hope BC makes a run. That would be so awesome to see the Friars go the distance in the tournament.
See, I would love to see that. I think Chris Dunn is a heck of a player, and he's not even the leading scorer on that team this year or leading rebounder, which is incredible and really weird to think about it because of A, all the hype he's gotten from the media, and B, just the dynamic aspect he brings to that team. But I think the Big East is just cursed. I don't think any of those teams are good enough. Georgetown.
It's all Syracuse's fault. It's all Syracuse's fault. Them leaving the Big East ruined the Big East. I really miss that tournament so much at MSG. I really do.
Between all your powerhouse. I mean, BC sucks now. Boston College is terrible at basketball now. But all your powerhouse teams left, and it's basically a Catholic school conference now. That's really what the Big East is. And I was watching in the Big East championship last year. when Providence College was playing in it and they lost. I was watching at Providence College because the Hockey East Championship was taking place and UNH was playing at Providence College, which UNH beat PC, and then they went on to win the national championship. So I'm just saying, like, if UNH had gotten the chance in the tournament, they would have done some damage, but completely different story. But I don't know, that conference, PC was out of that game towards the end of it, and Villanova, Georgetown, Xavier, none of those teams impressed me.
Villanova's a top-ranked team this year, but Villanova's always feel like that. They remind me of a lot of Georgetown. I never ever pick Georgetown when I pick my brackets because I always leave early for some reason. I'm always cursed with them, and I also am cursed because I've picked the 2 years I picked UConn to leave early in the tournament. They went on to win the national championship, so shows what the hell I know about the tournament and stuff. So
it's all such a toss-up. It's all such a toss-up. One thing I do want to touch upon. And obviously people have been, this is we're not coming out of the woodwork. We're not making this news, but Ben Simmons is an unbelievable basketball player.
Praying that the Celtics get that first pick to grab him. That unprotected pick from Brooklyn.
I think he's averaging 20 points a game. 20 points a game, 13 rebounds a game, and 5 assists a game. He's only a freshman. He's huge. He's a double threat. People are saying that he might be the best player to enter the draft since LeBron. I don't know how true that might be, but I don't know.
I don't know if it's that hype, but there's a lot of hype for that kid. So, but yeah, that's that, I guess. But all right. So I know you've been following up on this, so I'm going to bring us to the next topic. And have you watched any more of Making a Murderer?
I've been glued to my TV the past couple of days. When I'm not working, I've basically been watching that.
So pretty much. Yeah, so I think we discussed it a little bit last time in our podcast. So Stephen Avery, Wisconsin resident, documentary came out about him. He served it's called Making a Murderer, the documentary. He served 18 years in prison for a wrongful conviction for rape. So then 2 years later, he is then charged with the death of photographer Teresa Halbach.
Yep, Teresa Halbach.
Teresa Halbach. Yep. All right. So now. Here's an interesting thing that comes up with all this conspiracy theory. So now everyone thinks the police department was the one who planted evidence on his grounds. So I watched one episode at home and I thought I was getting angry watching this because it is so unbelievable how you feel like he is the totally the victim of this, but who knows? So apparently after he got out of prison for being wrongfully convicted for the rape, he tried to sue the police department.
And he won.
He
got some sort of settlement. He got $400,000.
Yeah, so he wins the settlement, and then that must have triggered something because then as soon as he won the settlement, it was this woman went missing, and then when it was found dead, and her car was on his property, and then they made him leave the property for 7 to 8 days, and he couldn't return home while the police did an investigation on his grounds. And it took him 7 to 8 days to realize that there was evidence right in front of them or something like that. It was some really, really sketchy stuff that this really took you 7 to 8 days to figure this stuff out.
The biggest turning point, the biggest kind of piece of evidence that they've seen, at least from where I am, I think I'm 6 episodes in, is that Teresa had a 1999 Toyota RAV4.
Yeah.
And the reason they started searching the Avery grounds was because Teresa's aunt and I think her cousin were part of a search party. They got permission to go search the grounds, and the Avery's own a salvage yard, huge 42-acre plot, tons of cars, tons of junk, and it's a place where they'd go shooting rabbits and beer cans off of railings as targets and stuff like that. And they find a Toyota RAV4. Not in the salvage yard, not crushed up where they have equipment to do that because it's a salvage yard and that's what they do. But they find it in the woods, really lamely covered up with, I don't know if that's a word, lamely, but really pathetically covered up with wood and branches and kind of a half-assed job to cover stuff up. And they call in, they get a direct line to the detective. They call in, they say, "Hi, we found a Toyota RAV4. We want to call it in." And the detective asks for the VIN number, and they read off the VIN number. It matches the description of Teresa's car, and that's when they evacuate the Averys off the premises of the property, and they start searching it. But so the big thing is that the car is found on November 10th. Teresa's reported missing on October 31st. Or she goes missing on the 31st. That's the last time someone heard from her. She was reported missing on a couple days later, the 2nd. On the 3rd, a detective calls into dispatch and asks to check on a car, gives the plate number. And they call back and they say, yep, it belongs to a missing person, Teresa Hallback. And he goes, okay, 1999 Toyota RAV4. She goes, yep. He goes, all right, thank you. He hangs up, and the lawyer puts him on the stand and basically calls him out and saying, how did you know? Were you looking at that vehicle? And the detective goes, no. It says, oh, well, you couldn't have been looking at that vehicle because that call was made on the 3rd, and the vehicle wasn't found until the 10th. So there's some sketchy stuff that was going on. And
yeah, that's all I've gotten from these cases is a lot of the when a lot of these guys are put on the stand, they really just don't even know what to say. Like they're like left unanswered because it's almost like they know they're so full of shit. But like it's like they have this like it makes me so angry because like I remember when they were like one of the interviews they were having with a couple of the guys, and it was so blatantly obvious that like these guys are so bad at lying. You could see right through their teeth that they're lying. It's like, and I don't know what this whole situation now with like I guess Stephen A. Like I mentioned before that Stephen Avery's like fiance is like or ex-fiance was coming out and like throwing him under the bus and saying how he was like guilty of it and he really did kill this woman. And then his cousin came out and said that like he took part in the murder, but like he's got like an IQ of a 60 and his story made absolutely no sense. And then the police like they put this kid in interrogation for like I don't know how long. Like they did, it was like this weird tactic they did with it. They took advantage of this kid and like they were able to have the kid convince himself that he had done this or had participated in it. And then I had mentioned to you, remember that phone call?
Yep.
They talked about like, oh, well, they're saying that my story is like inconsistent. What does inconsistent mean? And the mother who he's talking to on the phone, she's like, well, I don't really know what that means. So I'm just like, these are the kind of people that we're dealing with here. Like, this is how smart this guy is.
Maybe it means inconsistent is fake. Maybe they think it's a fake story. It's like, dude, no.
He's dumb as rocks.
And also, when he's being interviewed, the kid's 16. He's a sophomore in high school, and they say he's like, how long am I going to be here for? And the detective goes, oh, I don't know, not too much longer. Why? He goes, do you think I can get back to class at 1:29? He's like, I don't know. Why? Why do you have to be back at 1:29? And he goes, oh, I have a project due at 1:30. It's like the kid doesn't. He's being interrogated. He's so unintelligent. He's so dumb that he thinks that after he's done, he's going to go back to class to hand it. He doesn't realize that after he admits, and I say that with quotations because there's no evidence that backs anything up, but he thinks that after he admits that he was involved in a murder of someone, that he is going to be able to go back to class. It's like that these people, that's how fake the story is. That's how fabricated the story is.
It's really, the documentary really did a good job with it. And it reminds me a lot of did you watch The Jinx at all with Robert Durst?
No, I actually got told to watch that yesterday by a photographer.
That was absolutely insane. That stuff was crazy. And it was so hysterical because this guy was committed a murder like 1980 of his wife. She had been missing. The investigation, people could not figure anything out. They had like no leadways or anything like that. And then this woman that was like friendly with him, she like knew some information about it, and they were like best friends. And then ironically, she dies. She gets murdered in her house, and then she lives on the other side of the U.S. than he did. And then they found out that Robert Durst happened to be in L.A. at the time where she was murdered, where she lived. And there's all this crazy stuff going on. And the documentary film and the crew were the ones who were able to figure this out and actually like pin the evidence. And then like the night before the final episode aired, he got arrested. So everyone's like, oh my God, what the hell goes on in the episode tomorrow night? And it was crazy. It was pretty impressive what they did. But it reminds me of a lot of the publicity that now this documentary is getting on like CNN and like MSNBC and Fox and other news stations. It's pretty incredible because The Jinx, when that had surfaced with Robert Durst, that got a lot of publicity too after the documentary got a lot more popular. And then of course when Robert Durst was apprehended and all that. So I guess it's these new documentaries are starting to make a lot more I guess impact on the public's opinion on whether or not the person's guilty or not guilty.
Yeah, you're seeing a big upward trend. And Serial is a podcast started by, I forget her name, but she's a former.
I did read about that yesterday about the.
And last season it was about a kid, 17-year-old kid, convicted of murder of his ex-girlfriend by the Baltimore Police Department. And it's kind of cool because it starts off, the very first episode, the reporter who puts it together calls up her nephew. And he's about 16, 17 years old. And she says, I want you to tell me what you did 2 Fridays ago. And he can't really remember. And he says, I went to the movie theater. She goes, okay, who are you with? And he names off 5 people. And she goes, okay, are you sure? And he goes, wait a minute. Like Sherry wasn't with us. Sherry had to go. Her mom wouldn't let her come out that night. She goes, okay, so there were only 4 people? He goes, no, I think there were actually 5. Who was the 5th person? So basically she's just talking about how so much stuff goes on in a person's life, and especially in a young person's life, that their brain fills in gaps and they don't remember things that happened that aren't really important, because you wouldn't think going to the movies with your friends on a Friday night is that memorable an experience, because it happens all the time. So it's pretty cool. This true crime genre is just blowing up right now, and I think we're going to see a huge takeoff as far as shows go, kind of like the reality TV genre that really took off during the writer's strike.
Yeah, it's America loves its violence and all that,
If it bleeds, it leads. That's what they always say.
Yep.
Even in the show, they say murder is very. They're talking to a Dateline reporter. They say murder is very in right now. People love to hear about murder, and it's like they're talking about a pair of shoes or like a new perfume.
I'm guilty of it too, because I love like forensic files and all that kind of stuff. And it's like when I step outside the box for a second and look at it, I'm like, wow, that's very sick. That's very sick of me. That's like,
yeah, I don't know what our obsession is with it.
Yeah, it's I guess how some of our minds are like that, I guess. But enough of making a murderer, I guess. We'll wrap that up. So yeah, final thoughts on anything else? Anything else you want to add before we?
Monmouth basketball. They got their 14th win of the season last night. Zach's laughing at me because he hasn't. They're a MAC team. They're beating teams like Georgetown. They beat Notre Dame. They beat USC. They're blowing up, and the reason you probably have heard of them is because their sideline antics are just hilarious. Their bench is just
that's the team.
That's the team, yep.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. That bench is hysterical. That is funny as hell.
So last night, I forget who they played, but they won. They won pretty big. So all the starters are sitting. All the bench players are in there, and a couple kids got their first ever points. And the starters are on the bench, and they're doing the crazy routines. And it's pretty funny because you can tell that they're not rehearsed, because they, why would they rehearse that? Because they actually have to practice and stuff like that. But they're all, they're going, one kid scores his first career point, and it's a 3-pointer, and he kind of lets it go like Steph Curry style and just starts retreating back to play defense because he knows it's going in. And it goes through, and the one kid starts doing the worm, and other kids are dancing around, and it's it's the funniest thing. If you haven't seen that, go YouTube it. It's all over the place. The NCAA is actually trying to crack down on the courtside celebrations.
Yeah, no fun for anybody, please.
No fun. But it's about the kids. This is about the kids, but no fun. You can't do that. That's a whole nother story. As much as I love college sports, but so that's my final thought: is watch out for Monmouth. They did lose to an 8th-ranked MAC team. I'm not saying that they're going to be, a force to be reckoned with like Oklahoma or Baylor or someone of that nature, but pay attention because they're going to be fun to watch, especially in March.
My final thought. No More Parties in L.A., new Kanye West song. Have you heard it yet?
I haven't heard it yet, but I know Kendrick's in it, so I know I'm going to like it.
Really good. It's about 6.5 minutes long. Kanye West sounds like he's back to making the good music again instead of I Am God and all this crazy, like, psycho crap that he was putting out on Yeezus. I can't even listen to that album anymore, but, yeah.
I love it. I love Yeezus. I hate on it all you want. I've gotten tons of flack from it. I thought it was fantastic. Blood on the Leaves is a great song.
I'm still, but the new song sounds pretty good. I guess his new album Swish comes out in February. So yeah, new song.
He named his album Swoosh.
Swish, yes.
Like SWOOSH.
SWISH.
Oh, okay. Because I thought that was going to be a knock against Nike because he put that song out. That was saying he could sell more shoes than Michael Jordan and stuff like that, and because he left Nike and made his shoe with Adidas.
It's ridiculous, but yeah, that's my final thought on that. New song's pretty good. Check it out. So yeah, this has been another edition of the Zach and Sully podcast. We changed that name yesterday, I guess.
Yeah, we got a real name now.
We had a very hard argument. It got really brutal. It was like a Lennon and McCarthy argument to see whose name would. I'm just totally kidding. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for watching, all the support. We really love all the likes that we got in our page. And even though this is long, we have I just want to mention to all my viewers, we have in our YouTube bio, if you look at below the video that you click, you can look at the times I've listed. So if there's certain topics you want to listen to or skip over, you can do that so you don't have to hear us run our mouths for 50 minutes. Or you can appreciate us and you can listen to us talk for whatever amount we talked to today. I don't know how long we went, but we'll find out as soon as this video goes off the air.
Yeah, those of you who aren't the biggest sports fans and still tuned in yesterday to check us out, we really appreciate that. Hopefully you got some a little bit of a shake-up today. We start off with more pop culture stuff. Once again, we're working on getting this on Podbean and on iTunes, Podcast Addict, a couple stuff like that. But in the meantime, go to our Google Drive. You can listen to it on the Google Drive player and stream it, or you can download it, put it on your iPod, your iPhone, your Android, whatever, and listen to it on the elliptical. Take the dog for a walk and give us a listen. And we really appreciate everyone who's been liking our page and tuning in. So we can't thank you guys enough.
All right, so Sully, just do the honor and sign us off. But for today, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you again on Thursday.
See ya.